All right, this is one of the more recent projects. I just showed a video on the Warrior. This is one that came in kind of in between it and kind of behind it. Well, this is a 2010 Harley Davidson Electra Glide. Has air shocks on the rear, and the customer wanted it where he could not only air the suspension going down the road, but also drop the suspension, because the other part of this is it's going to have a stand underneath, kind of like a center stand for like a gull wing or something like that in that nature. But the difference being that it's not really made to be put down to pull the back tire up off the ground. You know, the real high ones kind of like on the gull wings and stuff like that. This is more designed to pull up to wherever you're going with the air up to 40 pounds or whatever you're riding at. Push the kickstand down, and it's a manual kickstand. The center kickstand has springs on it, but push the kickstand down and then deflate the air system, and it drops and sets just on that center stand itself. So like I said, this already had an air setup on it, but it had no compressor, no controls for it, no wiring or anything. So I had to figure all that out, and I'll kind of show you what we got here. I'll do the test on it, show you that real quick, and then I'll show you kind of the controls and what I had to replace. So it's an in-depth job, and I'm not done with it yet. I don't have the stand done yet, but it's almost ready. So I'll deflate the system first. And it doesn't move much, but we don't need that much. But here's the compressor on. And you can build it up to whatever you want. There is a safety valve inside, plumbed into the air system itself. That way, if you leave the button on by chance, it won't overpressurize the system, blow the shocks out or something like that. It'll hit the blow-off valve and vent pressure until you catch it and turn the button off. So there is safety built into that side. But that's with the aired up at 40 pounds. And here's the drop. So it's a fairly simple system, and they do have systems you can buy that are electric and full setup and all that. But what he particularly wanted, that's what I kind of had to come up with that stand. He really liked that manual stand. That way there was no chance of it having any issues on that. So I'll show you the real basic controls So on the left side, this is a click button on. So when you click it on, you got to click it back off. And then on the right side, that's the air dump valve. And so that's just, you push it, and as soon as you let off, it's off. So that one stays on until you click it back off. Also, I did install the air pressure gauge here. There was an air temperature gauge there, but that way he can read out his pressure, go down the road, adjust it however he wants to, and he can always keep an eye on his pressure. Other than that, the air system, I was gonna mount the pump up under the swing arm, but the pump I bought and the amount of room, I couldn't get it in there. I had to disassemble a whole lot to it, and so I called the customer and asked him, hey, what do you think about in the trunk? And he said, as long as there's enough room by the time it's done with everything installed in there to get 2 full face helmets in, we're good. Plenty of room. The pump's about 3 inches wide, and I cut a 7 by 6 inch plate, aluminum plate, and made the bracketry for it and all that. So back in the back end, it's got the pump, it's got of course the blow off valve, the high pressure relief valve. It also has the relay for this switch for the air pump, and also it's got a fuse block. It's a 6-position fuse block. I mean, 6 leads coming out of it, only using 2, and that way, if there's something wrong with the system and maybe the air pump doesn't come on or whatever, you can look, and it's the type that when it blows a fuse, it'll light up the red light, and that way it's really easy to catch. So it took a little bit of work to really figure this one out. We also did 3/4 of an inch drop in the rear with the shocks, because he wanted the bike a little bit lower anyway, so that was easy enough, and those parts are readily available. That's a good thing I can say about Harley Davidson as far as their parts. Our local dealership, and they have everything you want, so, and on hand at that. So it's really nice to do that, because all the other bikes I usually work on, the machines, it's a bit of a crapshoot. So this one, other than it just took a lot of time to really figure all this out, make sure I put on the safeguards, and make sure that if something, put fail safes in the system, that way everything's going to be all right, especially with an air system like that. And I'm pretty sure it's designed and you don't want it to, but if the air shocks did fail, that it won't come down and hit the fender. I checked it with the air suspension all the way down. It wouldn't hit the fender, it'd ride really rough, but at least if it did fail on that end, it wouldn't fully bottom out the suspension and lock up the rear tire. So I think they factored that in from the factory. But yeah, I gotta get the center stand done. They didn't have one for this particular year. They fit the style he wanted, so I've got one for up to an 08. And the basic components I can use, I'm gonna have to, mock up and fabricate some stuff to go underneath it. And where his foot position is, where he actually wants to put the lever down to get the stand down, I'm gonna have to reposition that as well. But I like to see the hard parts done, but I don't know until I really get digging into the stand. So, but that took quite a bit of work. It took, the drawing up there, and then refiguring everything, and then putting everything on the bench, hook up to just a regular battery, and then making sure every component worked properly, labeling all the wires, making sure I had all the wiring right, and then working the system on the bench, and just making sure that I wasn't building up any heat, too much heat in anything in the wiring, in the fuse block, and in the dump valve, or anything. And that way, that's the concept. That was proof of concept, and this is, the final part of it, to make sure and get everything correctly before you put that much work into it to get this system installed. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. This took a lot of work, pulling the front fairing out to put the air pressure gauge in. Pretty tight spot in there. It took not a lot of room to work with unless you want to pull a whole bunch more out, and no need to do that. So that took a little while to get that, and then running the switches, and then figuring how to run the switch to the relay, and then making sure all the lights lit up, the LED lights for it when the ignition came on. The dump valve was pretty simple. It's basically positive to ground, so it's a really simple system, and you're on it for like a second. So, and it is ran back into a fuse as well. No relay for that because it's just an on and off switch. There's nothing else to it. But yeah, so now I can get to the center kickstand, or the center stand, and this will be ready to roll out. So hope you guys like it, and we'll see what's next.